they are.
You had, since we started recording, you've had 18 contractions.
Partners, to time a contraction, use something that counts seconds. You can even download an app for your phone or tablet to make timing contractions easy. This graph shows the length of a contraction, which is how long it lasts, and how far apart they happen. The time from the start of one contraction to the start of the next represents the frequency. Call your healthcare provider right away if you're likely labor starts with contractions as the uterine muscle tightens and relaxes. Unlike warm-up contractions, true labor contractions don't fade away, no matter what you do. Instead, they develop a pattern. They become stronger, last longer, and happen more frequently. Once you begin having regular contractions, you should call your healthcare provider.
She's in labor for sure, and yeah, we went away a little while on that.
10% of moms, labor starts when the bag of waters, or amniotic sac, breaks. When this happens, you might notice a trickle or gush of fluid. For most moms, their water breaks later on during the labor process. You describe the color. Was it clear or brownish? Odor. Was it odorless or did it have a strong smell? Amount. Was it a slow leak or a gush of fluid? And time. When did it happen? Know how long it will last. Every mom and baby is different. Typically, the entire process of birth lasts anywhere from 6 to 24 hours or longer. But no matter how long it takes, your labor goes through 4 distinct stages. During the first stage of labor, contractions cause the cervix to thin and open. The second stage of labor includes pushing and the birth of your baby. The third stage of labor is when you push out the placenta. And finally, during the fourth stage, you and your baby will recover from childbirth and transition. These parts can blur together in labor, and you might not notice when you're moving to the next part. Let's start with early labor. This animation shows the changing cervix. During early labor, the cervix dilates from 0 to 6 centimeters and begins to thin. In order for this to happen, contractions must gradually become longer, stronger, and closer together. Marimar's contractions are not very strong yet, and labor contractions are short, typically lasting only 30 to 45 seconds, and are spaced 5 to 30 minutes apart. This pie graph represents a 24-hour labor. Early labor is the longest part, typically lasting 6 to 12 hours for first-time moms, but for some, it can last a day or more. Since early labor can last quite a while, it's usually best to stay at home. No need to rush to the hospital. To active labor, which is part 2 of this first stage. At this point, these stronger contractions are working to thin and open the cervix from 6 to 8 centimeters. Contractions during this phase typically last 45 to 60 seconds each and are 3 to 5 minutes apart. Active labor is shorter than early labor, averaging 3 to 5 hours. Laura and Brandon have been laboring at home all day and are now trying to decide when it's time to go to the hospital. Care provider will probably tell you to go to the hospital or birth center when your contractions are 5 minutes apart and last at least 1 minute for more than 1 hour. Remember this as the 5-1-1 rule. If your doctor or midwife has different guidelines, be sure to follow their instructions. Your emotions will likely change, becoming more serious and focused. This is the time to tap into your inner strength and rely more heavily on your support people.
We're going to the car.
It's time for Janine and Brandon to go.
What's going on around me, nothing else really mattered, but I just got in the zone. She went from dealing with the pain pretty well to having to breathe through it, using me and her father to get her through it, because they slowly got harder and harder and harder.
Which positions her head for birth. Usually, the baby's head turns so she is facing her mother's back. This is called the anterior position and allows her to more easily fit through the pelvis and into the birth canal. In some births, the baby's head turns so that she's facing her mother's front. This is the posterior position. In this position, her head puts added pressure on her mother's back, which may cause back pain and slow down the labor.
You want anything?
With her mother of the pressure against her back.
There was a point in my labor where I was on an exercise ball and I was doing a different position, like laying on the bed, to help me like take my focus off of the pain and onto other things.
Active labor progresses into the third and final part of the first stage, called transition. During this part, your cervix thins and opens completely from 8 to 10 centimeters. The contractions during transition last 60 to 90 seconds each and are only 1 to 3 minutes apart. Transition is usually the most challenging part of labor, but also the shortest, typically lasting between 30 minutes and 2 hours. Because of how intense transition is, you might feel overwhelmed and more dependent on others. During transition, continuing to use a variety of positions and comfort techniques can help. Chrislyn, a third-time mom, is now going through transition, and her labor has progressed quickly. Her husband Marcus and her other support people work to keep her focused. Partners, transition is the time when it's important for you to offer extra emotional support. Use direct eye contact, be more assertive, and help her stay focused on the positive outcome ahead, the baby's birth.
We just need to shift our attention to, getting her to realize that, she could do it, that it wasn't an impossible task.
Labor, pushing, and birth. Laura has a short resting period after she's fully dilated, then feels a strong urge to push.
Can I push?
Contractions are still powerful during the pushing stage, but less frequent. They will last 60 to 90 seconds and are 3 to 5 minutes apart. As each contraction builds, you'll usually feel the urge to push. The time it takes to push and give birth to your baby can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours or longer.
I did not know how to push. I just kind of put my head down, like they said, you kind of want to put your head down and push down with it. And
the top of the uterus is very thick and pushes on the baby with each contraction, helping the baby to move through the pelvis. Pushing in an upright position helps this process along and uses gravity to its advantage. You might feel an overwhelming mix of emotions during this stage, such as relief and a burst of energy. You may also feel exhausted and frustrated, especially if pushing takes longer or is more difficult than you expected. As you push, your baby's head will move down and then slip back slightly between contractions. To help your baby's head descend more easily, her skull is made up of separate bony plates. These plates slide together to help her head fit through the birth canal. The opening is stretched to the fullest, and her head does not slip back between contractions. You might feel some burning and stretching during crowning. Next, your baby extends her head and lifts her chin, allowing the crown through and out the birth canal. Her head starts emerging face down, and then turns to line up with her shoulders, which are still inside of you. With the next push, one shoulder comes out and then the other. The rest of your baby slips out and she is born. Holding your baby skin to skin on your chest after birth with no clothing or blankets between you, helps stabilize her temperature, breathing, and blood sugar levels. You may notice that she calms down when she feels your warm skin.
Look at that head full of hair.
5 to 20 minutes after your baby is born, as the uterus starts shrinking, the placenta detaches. You'll feel another contraction as your body prepares to deliver it. A few minutes after birth, Laura delivers the placenta, which is examined by her doctor to check for anything abnormal.
Looks perfect.
After Nakaya delivers her placenta, the midwife massages the top of her abdomen to help her uterus continue to shrink and decrease bleeding. This massage can be uncomfortable, so she takes deep breaths to help with the discomfort. The fourth stage of labor consists of the first few hours of your baby's life outside of the womb. During the third and fourth stages of labor, you'll probably feel a mix of exhaustion and joy. During the fourth stage, your uterus becomes more firm as it continues to contract and shrinks to about the size of a cantaloupe in the hours after birth. But you won't be back to your pre-pregnancy size for a while. Don't worry, as your uterus